Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. We are trying to do this a little differently, and hopefully everything works out dandy-doo-dah. So, how y'all doing, Mr. Sage?
I guess I'm alive, so that's good.
I would say that is usually good. That it is good. I'm gonna turn.
Sage has got to use up a lot of his life points from the EU, and not one more.
Indeed, yes. Well, I recently got a new supply since it's the new year and all.
So your guys' voices are totally different, and I can't control that. Maybe I can. I don't know. Let's give it a shot.
Okay.
I have no idea how to do this. I cannot edit your mic settings. If you could turn yourself slightly down, Sage, that'd be fantastic. You are really loud. I'm probably really loud too, but I have no way to tell.
I mean, I don't have an option to drop it.
Quality! That's what I call it. Quality production. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing okay. Just really tired.
I know the feeling.
Fighting the health recovery stuff.
Are you home now, or are you still?
Yeah, I'm home, but it feels like my home is becoming a bloody hospital. So.
Well, it's all home for us now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess maybe if I move this one a bit further away.
I still hear it. Well,
I changed it.
Well, for me it sounds the same, but I mean, if it changed for him,
does it still sound the same?
That's better. That's better. Hopefully not too bad. Go ahead and say something now, so I can test you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you're both in the same range. How about you, Matt? Go ahead and say something.
It should sound perfect. The same as I've been sounding.
Hopefully that is. Leave a comment telling us how poor sound is. Because that's the only way I'm going to be
check in to do extensive audio and video work with you guys in preparation for our short 5-minute video.
Yes, literally. All right, 1 second. I'm going to blip this real quick. There we go. I hate that thing so much. Anyway. Now that that's out of the way, let's move on to, I guess, what our topics are going to be about. There's not a whole lot of them because not much is happening right now besides wildfires in California, just burning people out of homes.
California is going full Mad Max.
Yeah, I've planted all those eucalyptus.
If you live in California, you need to adopt your post-apocalyptic name.
Establish the NCR.
Furifficus malignus or something, whatever, and that's just like your mom's name now. You call her
Philippicus. But yes, it looks like Sage has been updated to Inquisitor Sage, as is his proper.
Finally got my promotion.
Yeah, his promotion from just unknown to Inquisitor.
Quite a step.
One of these days, Matt will get there. We'll give him a promotion eventually. But anyway, let's jump into this. Pow. And yes, it's going to brighten my face because it's a big screen next to me. So, Sony is planning live-action Horizon and Helldivers movies. This happened at the CES, or Sony CES 2025 display show or whatever. Sony seems determined to turn every PlayStation game in its library into a movie or TV show, which is probably why they're hemorrhaging money. And it has continued that push by announcing that it's developing live-action movies based on Horizon Zero Dawn and Helldivers 2. They're skipping Helldivers 1 and going straight to 2, I guess. They'll probably just call it Helldivers, I'd imagine.
Probably, yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn will probably be Horizon Zero Dawn, and they'll eventually do like Horizon Forbidden West, and then you think by that time they'll have a third game out.
Assuming, I guess, the second season.
Well, it's a movie, so.
Assuming it gets a sequel.
It will. If they're going to put one out for this game.
Are these live action or CGI?
I presume live action. It hasn't said quite yet, but we'll get there. The news was shared by PlayStation Productions head Assad Kizilbash. I hope I get that name right. There's no U, so I can't say Qua. During Sony's press conference at CES in Las Vegas late Monday. Both films are early in development and have no talent attached yet, at least not that Sony was willing to divulge. This is coming from Polygon. I don't like Polygon, but it's the only one I could find that had all this stuff attached to it, so we're running with it. Last year's surprise smash hit, Helldivers 2, is an online co-op shooter in which players assume the role of armored space commandos fighting hordes of bugs and robots, and now zombies and aliens. Any movie adaptation will have to contend with the huge and obvious debt its setting owes to Paul Verhoeven's satirical action masterpiece from 1997, Starship Troopers. Now, I will say it was...
Satirical.
Yeah, it's literally a parody. I will point out that it was a smash hit when it released before Sony screwed that up. So you could thank Sony for that. It would still probably be doing really good. And then on top of Sony's interference, I think it's, what do they call them? In Discord, they're like a mod or whatever. The mod
Discord moderators.
Yeah,
I think.
the Discord moderator went all like ideological promotion thing and just went nuts, and basically just ruined a lot of things for everybody. And they started like banning people or doing a whole bunch of like muting them or whatever because they didn't like what they were saying about the game, because this, that, or the other reason. And then for some reason, the heads of the game, the guy who actually runs the whole thing, because the guy who actually owns, I think he owns the studio or owns the game or whatever, he actually actively goes into the game and makes changes himself. And that's what makes Helldivers 2 somewhat interesting, because it's a constant change. So if we push all the bugs back, the robots might get a surge, and they'll have like a planet that's got a special thing on it. So if we hold it for so long, we get a new weapon, and that weapon can make a big deal. But if the robots or the bugs or somebody else gets to it and they hold it for the time period, we lose access to that gun. So it creates a live push. But the problem is it's a live service game, and with a live service game, it's going to have live service problems, which is you're going to have a dip in player count inherently at some point. And having Sony come in and screw everything up and ban a whole bunch of people from other countries. I think, how many countries does it, Sage? It's like 120 countries or something?
I don't fucking know.
I think it was like 120 countries or something like that, where you can't even actually have like the PSN, like the PSN, the PlayStation Net account, whatever. You can't even have that in those countries, but because they forced you to do it, people who had it on PC couldn't even play it. Even though it's completely optional now, they didn't remove that requirement, and therefore people who paid for the game can't play the game. So it's a bit of a dick.
So according to some random source, I just Googled 121.
Oh, I was so close. I was one off. But yeah, because of that whole kerfluffle, it dived, and I mean it dived. It went from like, it was probably 500,000, 800,000 or something like that players, and I think when it hit its low peak, it was like 50,000, maybe less. Like it was quite the difference in terms of the player count. And then they fixed a couple things. They added they did an announcement at the Gamer Awards thing. And because of the additions and stuff, some people came back and played it a little bit more, and it jumped back up, but it's never recovered from that plunge. And I would say some of that's natural because other games came out, other things happened, and people wanted to participate in those games. I'm sure when Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 comes out, that's going to take a hit from a lot of places, but usually that's more of a single player person. So people who probably don't actively play live service games are going to be playing that. But maybe something like Baldur's Gate 3 will take a hit just because everybody who plays single player games, there's only so many of them. But they might not take a huge hit, but Baldur's Gate 3 has been pretty consistent throughout its life. So Helldivers 2 has been a bit of a weird one. But then Quizzlebash said that PlayStation Production was working with Sony Pictures on the adaptation. I love that Sony, is working with Sony to make the adaptation. Horizon Zero Dawn, which I have not played. I do have the PlayStation to play it, and I heard the first one was actually pretty good. The open world adventure game in which post-apocalyptic tribal hunter Aloy, fights giant robot animals, and sounds like it's intended to be a major movie project. Quizzlebash said PlayStation Productions was developing the film with Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures' flagship movie brand, which again, Sony working with Sony, it's kind of silly. Which has already released movies based on Gran Turismo and Uncharted. And not quite Gran Turismo, it's more of a documentary than the actual video game, but whatever. Uncharted didn't do that well as a movie, did it? I don't hardly remember anything about it.
Oh, you know, Uncharted the movie. You know who the writer of that movie was?
Somebody terrible, I'm assuming.
Rafe Judkins.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it's trash. Just imagine Aloy's beloved origin story set in a vibrant, far future world filled with the giant machines brought to you for the first time on the big screen. Quizzlebash teased. Now, I would like to point out that anybody who's paid attention to the Horizon series, video games, should be aware of the blatant character design change, we'll say.
Yes, that's one way to phrase it.
The first and the second game. Now, the first game, everybody was happy. Nobody cared. It's literally just The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 all over again. The first game was well received, well beloved. The second game broke the fandom. Because Sony loves doing this. Because they don't know how not to break their own toys. But I'm eager to understand and know if they make the series like Horizon Zero Dawn and then Horizon Forbidden West, and then possibly a third one to make a trilogy, or if they're just going to do two, I don't know. If they're successful, it's very rare for them to just stop until they start being unsuccessful. But if they go from Zero Dawn to Forbidden West, do you guys think that they will make the main character a little chubbier to match the game?
Probably not.
Or do you think they'll just use the same character?
They will probably use the same one.
And we lost Matt. All right, Matt's back. Hey, Matt.
Hey, sorry about that.
You're all good.
Touch screen is
Touchy.
I'll have to patch something too.
But
How do you get back from here? Huh?
Are you trying to turn your camera off? Is that what you're doing?
I'm on the phone. Let me turn it. Sorry about that.
There you go.
On the phone, I was trying to type on here or whatever, but the touch screen is too sensitive. That's what happened before.
Okay.
Anyway,
did you hear what I said about the main character?
I heard they changed the main character, and I remember listening. I don't know what they changed, but I remember.
So Aloy was basically like a young, almost looked like a teenager, like maybe a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever. And so she was pretty slim fit and everything. And then in Horizon Forbidden West, they made her pudgier, gave her an extra chin, that kind of a thing. Like she just looks like she exploded from eating too much McDonald's.
They woke her. Yeah.
I mean, sure. I mean, I guess they were afraid of having too much of an attractive character, even though it worked out great for them the first time around. They just thought there was too much success and they needed to bump it down a notch. So, do you think that they will turn Aloy larger in the second movie, if they, presuming that they make one, or are they going to use the same actress and nothing will really change? Because I find it hard to believe that Horizon Forbidden West would make sense having a heavier person, considering how much jumping, hiding, and running is going on. It would make sense that that person...
I don't think that will stop them.
I know, but I'm just saying it would be very weird and immersion breaking, because it's like, yeah, pick a 600-pound person and then have them running like they are Usain Bolt. Just
immersion breaking, like say the blood snow scene from Wheel of Time.
Pregnant women flying around doing combat and then giving birth 5 seconds later. Yeah, that sounds about right. But don't forget that was peak feminism, guys. That was like legitimately a strong, empowered woman, because that's actually how it happens in real life.
Yeah. So what's the problem with the jumping then?
I know, right? Because if you jump on somebody's cloak, it's not going to totally rip with that much weight.
But so when I first heard about the changes that the Helldive or this other game, like a while back. I was like, I every time I start to hear, I listen. I put my little woke antenna and see are the change what we like you just mentioned the giant obese main character or whatever. As soon as they mention that, my brain just starts to turn off to whatever that product is because I'm not unless I'm not gonna fill my like time with thinking about stuff that way. So it's basically doing itself to failure, and they're doing it to themselves. It's like you know when like the lemmings going over the cliff, how the lemmings at the edge don't know that the lemmings in the front are there, so they're shoving them into the ocean. You know,
Yeah.
I think we'll at the stage of that with a lot of this woke stuff now, where there's still a bunch of woke DI lemmings being shoved into the ocean, and the ones at the front who see the sort of effect are like, "Stop pushing us! You know, well, whatever." But a whole bunch of activists are still back there in these corporations shoving stuff into this. And look, and another example we can for the broader topic. Have you guys been keeping up with James Gunn's DCU?
No.
To be honest, I've never really been a fan of the DC, so not really.
So
Um,
not to go into depth
I
into
I
it,
grew
but
up on Marvel,
one,
so and it was very
yeah,
little.
one of the big
I don't
fears
know
of
about that
us with
now.
James Gunn is he was going to basically do what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. And there's a lot of woke stuff in there. You know, people ignore it because they like the movies, but what you could do, right? Because it could be woke and non-woke. But he gives you a lot of good signs, and like in the trailer he just dropped with classic Superman costume and crypto and all that. But then you see some other little things in some other scenes, and you're like, is it really just you know bait and switch? You know what I mean? Or is it like? And that's the same thing with any of these products. There's the James Gunn Superman product is in place for a year. This has been in place for probably 2 years, and they're going to come out no matter what because they spent too much money on them. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the suit looks kind of weird to me personally, and the actor, I don't recall seeing him in literally anything, so I don't know much about him in that regard. I don't
What's his
have a
name?
whole uh, what's his name? Corn something? I don't know. I've heard things. I don't know if that's actually his name or if this is what people call him. I don't know his actual name.
Is in the article? Is in the article?
I don't have an article for DC.
Oh. So you
No.
follow
David
you
Cornswith.
the guy playing Superman? Yeah.
I think
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
that's how you
yeah.
pronounce it at least.
Yeah.
What'd you say it was, Sage?
Is it Goran?
David Cornswith,
Cornswood?
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe you pronounce it differently. I don't know.
I've heard different people
I
say
can do a
different things, and I think
simultaneous
they're just
pronunciation.
I think they're assigning a a nickname to him. But people were talking about is it going to be him or Henry Cavill, and that's like the favorite. And I think everyone's pretty stuck on Henry Cavill until this guy pops up on the screen and potentially
Well,
proves them wrong.
Cavill is gone. Cavill was Superman from
I
the
know,
start.
but we're talking about like what people here in current modern day see as the better of the two Supermen.
Well,
And
the best modern Superman was from the TV show that was just finished, Superman and Lois. The dude, Tyler Hoechlin, knocked it out of the park. He's the best Superman since Christopher Reeve. The TV show was awesome. Um, it's concluded at 4 seasons. There's a little bit of woke in there, you know, like any CW stuff, but there's a minimal woke. You guys should go watch it. Anyone listening, 4 seasons, all done now, and worth every like episode is great. Is like a 9 out of 10 almost now.
Is this the one from the Arrowverse? Let's call it.
Yeah, it technically it's the Arrowverse Superman, but it's a different universe than the one on the main Arrowverse Earth.
yeah. To finish this particular article up, PlayStation Production was formed in 2019 with the intention of turning Sony's game franchises into movies and TV shows, and it's been pretty busy. As well as Gran Turismo and Uncharted has produced TV shows based on Twisted Metal, which I heard wasn't too bad. There was one episode that was a bit over the top, but aside from that, it was pretty good. And The Last of Us, which is over the top.
Horrible. Horrible.
The second season of the latter will premiere on HBO in April, and that's going to be hilarious because they're going to bait and switch Joel so freaking hard. And then a God of War show is being developed for Amazon Prime Video by Ronald D. Moore. Ghost of Tsushima has both a live action movie and an anime spinoff in the works, which I am looking forward to
Well,
if they do it right.
God of War is gonna suck. From Ronald D. Moore is the guy who destroyed Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, well, it was Rafe Judkins for God of War, and it no longer is him, so at least that's moderately good news.
So it'll be less gay and more deconstructive.
And more just bad. It'll be normal bad at least, right?
Ronald D. Moore, the Battlestar Galactica remake that happened about 20 years ago now, 25 years ago.
That's the one I remember.
Was actually the precursor to all this modern woke, like just deconstructive garbage. And Ronald D. Moore was the guy who did it.
I mean, I didn't think it was particularly that good, but everybody else is like, "Oh, it's amazing." I'm just like, it sounds really boring.
It had special effects are nice. Don't get me wrong, okay? I always try to be objective with this stuff, right? It had some nice special effects in space battles.
Yeah,
and the first episode,
it looked fine.
33.
It just was boring.
The first episode, 33, is the single best TV show episode of all time.
Like I grew up on Stargate and Stargate Atlantis, and I loved them because they had a good balance of adventure, action, humor, but also seriousness. And then was it Stargate Universe or whatever came out, and that was atrocious.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they stopped it, because nobody watched it because it was terrible. But Stargate was really fun. SG-1
Universe was getting ratings, but for the amount of money they dumped into it, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, but it didn't have any of the humor. It was too serious. It was more like they were trying to make.
If the show had cost half as much, it would have lasted 5 or 6 seasons. You know,
maybe. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, the people I know didn't watch it and didn't like it, despite loving SG-1 and Atlantis.
I agree with you.
Because it was just devoid of what made it Stargate to begin with.
I only watched Stargate Universe twice. Once just to force myself, and second for completionist purposes over the last years. But I didn't enjoy most of it. You know, it's not Stargate like you would say. You know,
it's like they made a different franchise and used the same props. Stargate,
but it could have been if they kept the budget way less, like a smaller ship and all that and whatever.
I mean, they could have made it like freaking Star Trek. Just have a bunch of sets that are inside of it, and then have like a CG ship on the outside. Like they could have made it super simple like that. They didn't have to make it over the top. I mean, they've always done that with the CG ships and everything. They did, and even if you saw them and they're like, that looks a little goofy, you didn't care because it was just a fun series. But I am looking forward to Ghost of Tsushima as live action and anime. It better be a rated R, and it better have lots of the chop sueys that we expected from the game. But I hope they don't pull the Ghost of Yotai on it. And the anime spinoff would be fantastic if they actually let a Japanese studio do it, because I don't want them to pull a War of the Rohirrim and be like, well, the Japanese animation studio, but not the Japanese. It was like a Western cartoon company that made it, and it was stupid and it was horrible.
Well, they had for War of the Rohirrim, the project was done so that Warner could maintain the license.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the quality could have been like. Because I get that they were doing it in order to maintain the license, but they could have made it for cheaper and done it better and still done the same thing. They could have maintained the license.
I'm not sure they would have been allowed to farm it out the way you and I would have wanted them to get that product and still maintain the license.
Why?
I think Warner had to do a significant part of the work to qualify as exploiting the IP. In other words, it would be like
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to say, "Hey, what was the studio's name?" It's a studio that did I can't remember right now. Anyway,
they use the Japanese animation studio, and I'm pretty sure it's not owned by Warner.
We'll pay you to Japanimate. Make up a word to Japanimate War of the Rohirrim, the entire thing. Blah, blah, blah. Just give us and just put the product out. If they had done that, they would have lost the license. They actually have to have their teams involved in some capacity.
I mean, again, for one thing, they could have just purchased the studio that makes it, like an animation studio from Japan, and just let them do their thing. And then,
but they don't want. Remember, Warner's not in a position to purchase anything anymore. Now
they blew $30 million on a failure. $30 million. They could have spent $8 million from an actual studio thing and then done a whole bunch of tweaks on the back
end. That money
end.
was put in place. The money was put in place when the big kerfuffle went down between Amazon, Tolkien Estate, the Solzant Estate, and Warner, when they settled the lawsuits and settled the current state of the rights 3 or 4 years ago. So that money was allotted then. And it had to be allotted then for Warner to maintain their rights.
But if you're going to do that, why not just do a hidden story and then throw money at that nobody really cares about because there's like 2 sentences based about it? Make a whole thing, make it terrible,
I'm not saying you're wrong in what they should have done. I'm telling you what they did.
I know. I'm saying if they were going to go that route, and anybody with half a brain could probably come up with this concept or conclusion, you make something that's of the brand that keeps you with the rights, and then you make this production for much cheaper, which means it's going to basically pull a Godzilla -1, pay $8 million for a 2.5-hour movie, and then fill it with what actual content there is made by an actual animation studio, so it's actually anime. Show everybody what you can do with anime, and then it would explode, and it would sell like candy, and just they would have made so much money off of that to cover the losses of a terrible whatever production it might be. They could do a Winter Dragon equivalent of whatever it was.
But they don't think like that.
I know.
The people who, you know.
That's the problem. Is like it blows my mind that I'm like it's a business. I want to make money. Let me make money. It's super simple. It's very easy comparative to what they did. And they're like, well, we don't have money to go spend and buy things. I'm like, you don't have money to lose that you just chucked out the window. So, like, just at least do it correctly, and then people will applaud you and, sing your praises for the time being. And it's like, I'm glad Warner Bros. Has this. And then when somebody's like, hey, we're going to make, The Hunt for Gollum or whatever, at that point, people will say, I'm looking forward to it because I know Warner Bros. Isn't going to screw it up. But instead, we're going to be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Warner Bros. Is going to screw it up. And
no, the Hunt for Gollum has a higher standard because was arguably one of the 2 or 3 greatest all-time fan films of any fan films ever done on the internet, called The Search for Gollum.
Yeah.
Right? And it's amazing. It might be one of the most accurate Tolkien adaptations ever. That's how good it is.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Warner Bros. Version that they're supposed to be making.
No, I'm saying. So the smart thing will be for them for whoever's doing the Warner Brothers adaptation, which is Peter Jackson's team, I think, is to go get the kids who did that work. Say, look, you did something great. We just want to put it on the big screen now, and just go for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I particularly trust Warner Bros. After they butchered War of the Rohirrim, specifically as I am a very big War of the Rohirrim. Like, Rohirrim is probably my favorite of all the civilizations in the Tolkien universe, if you will. So I don't know. To me, it feels like it's a bit more of a betrayal, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it is a betrayal. I mean, there's no denying that. But I'm practical about it.
Yeah, I get the practicality, but I also think it's really dumb practicality that they did. Like, they did it stupid because they didn't put effort into it because they're lazy and horrible.
Let me say it this way. Now, we have different types of brains, okay?
I have a different brain from everybody.
I have a very high IQ, and I have a brain that constantly records everything I'm watching and listening to, okay? And in a way that's very annoying. So all of these failures that you're on, which is your franchises, I was listening before in the background to someone's radio blaring out the window about how 16 rap companies failed for the similar reason. I don't care about that. But my brain keeps up. There's so much failure out there that, like, it's amazing that we survived as a species, beyond, but then again,
we've become soft.
It all comes down to Naruto, okay? Naruto is the big. Now Naruto is the biggest loser because he
Ah,
refuses to lose, and maybe we as a species refuse to lose, and that's why even though we get the War of the Rohirrim and whatever, and Lord other crap like Rings of Prime and all that, we do get a Peter Jackson film somewhere in there too. You know what I mean? So like they do well, all the failure accumulates, and for every like 50 failures, we get one success, and that seems to be the the human condition.
speaking of Naruto, they just announced the complete Blu-ray box set of Naruto, and I'm assuming it's Naruto and Naruto Shippuden in one.
Yeah, they just
So
they
there's that. Ironically,
yeah, I actually was buying it an individual just for a while, but I'm like, I'm gonna wait till they put the box set out and just get. I'll sell off
yeah,
this thing.
the box sets are
Because-
better. I used to have the first 2 seasons of I think it's Viz Media or whatever it was that did him back in the day.
And also this year they're releasing a new narrative, our story arc.
Oh,
It's going to be
Eh,
set back in the Naruto days, like it'll be written by Kishimoto, so it's canon. It'll be like a younger adventure.
it's canon now. There's a lot of things. Canon's become a messy word. But
Well,
yeah,
that's because fans have gone to war over it. Like, no,
well,
because no one wants. People are tired of like of someone coming in and just destroying established story to make theirs look good. Which is
well,
what which is
yeah,
which is what
Star
this is
Trek
all
and
about.
everything. But yeah,
Not just Star Trek, comic books and whatever.
yeah. Well,
One of
see,
the reasons.
that's why I hold the position that just because you purchase the rights to something does not make your content canon,
No,
because
no.
if it
See, you're
conflates
not.
with,
You're not understanding. Okay, so they discovered. You remember? You've heard of Christ on Infinite Earth, right?
I've heard of
yeah.
it, I don't know what it is.
So that was back when DC Comics, their storyline, their continuity was a mess, right? So
Has it ever
they
not been?
well, no, I mean, well, just bear with me, right? It was they had rolling continuity for 30, 40 years, and they found out the comic fans loved continuity. So someone said, "Wait a minute, we did a little soft reboot about 20 years ago, Christ on Earth 2 or something like that. What if we did it to the whole line, simplified it down, had unified backgrounds, got rid of all the conflicts, got rid of all the stupid stuff like Superman, sewing vision or whatever, just simplified everything." And so they came with Christ on Infinite Earth, right?
Huh.
And that was the first sort of system-wide comic book reboot retcon that place. Now, gradually, Marvel realized they could but started using the retcon in a similar sort of way. And then about in the 90s, the the comic writers realized that um, if they retcon something and put a change into a character, they got residuals for that character now forever. So what's been happening since the 90s, and the woke DEI people, they're just the latest on the train, is when they go in and retcon in, oh, well, this guy is gay now, that means every residual for him, that comic writer gets a residual from him now. So that's one of the dirty secrets of the finances behind this DEI stuff. Why these writers are fighting so hard? It's not just because they believe this stuff. It's because they get residuals paid out forever now, because even though they fucked up Spider-Man, because they made a change to Spider-Man or something, a DI one, it's permanent. You know what I mean? And this is an economic war in a lot of ways, and not just in the sense of selling. Okay, not just selling the product to the consumer, right? But the you say, why do these companies keep paying these people for this? Well, they're used to failure. So for every 7 or 8, every 10 games that come out, they know on their budget going in, 9 of them are going to fail. So they're already saying, well, I got if 10 games cost $10 million, 9 of them are going to fail. So $9 million worth of failure. That means that one game has to make $30 million, right? At the end. So they're already in their head paying, I'm going to pay $9 million worth of failure. And so the woke DA people know that. So they're signing up for these projects because they know they're getting paid for that.
Well, and that makes sense. My thing is that in the actual world of canon, because that's more of the legal mumbo jumbo stuff. I'm talking about the actual canon. So
Well, that's what the point I'm making, though, is that the fans have seen 20 years of them doing this to Canon for these residuals.
Yeah,
And they've had it.
I
They've just
get the
had it.
residuals. That's not even what I have a problem with. I just have a problem with, like, there's Canon, and then somebody buys the property, and then they say, okay, now whatever I make is Canon. It's like, that's not how that works. It still has to fit within the framework of the prior Canon,
Well,
the original Canon.
what we usually do on the debate forums when that sort of thing happens is we say the and this is true of any sort of debate. When you're having a debate, anything, you could be talking nuclear physics, you could be talking Naruto, you could be talking Star Wars, whatever it is, right? You, as the establishment of the debate, you have to establish the parameters of the debate going in. For example, if you're going to talk nuclear physics, you may say no string theory. You know what I mean.
Screw your string theory.
Simple, um,
no
so,
sages allowed.
Yeah, or if you're debating Naruto, you may say, no infinite Tsukiyomi. Like you just put something on the game, and so when you declare your discussion or debate or your whatever you're doing,
I would set the parameters based upon the original author and their intent behind the actual story they made, not comments they make outside of the story, but like what they actually wrote. Similar to like Wheel of Time versus Robert Jordan's interviews, where he says something, but then it contradicts something else he says later on. And it basically shows he didn't have anything set for that. He was just throwing something out, which is different than what he wrote. Or when J.K. Rowling says, oh, well, this could be this way. And it's like, actually, you didn't write it in your story. And if it was that way in your story, you should write it in your story. But if she comes out later on with a book that adds that in, but it contradicts a prior book, it doesn't count as canon because it's actively contradicting her own stuff.
That's what you have to establish at the point of the discussion, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Canon is what was written and what was
does a
by
creator intend that his letters and verbiage and whatever are part of canon. We know in Tolkien he does. We know in Jim Butcher, the Dresden Files, he does.
But if I went out and I bought the Dresden Files and I wrote books and I didn't care what the content was and I threw in a whole bunch of stuff that contradicted with the prior stuff, it would not be official canon, regardless if I shout from the top of the rooftops that it is canon. That's my point. Well, no, I'm saying it literally by definition couldn't be. Like, owning rights does not equal canon. Now, if you write something along the lines of canon, it could be canon.
The way you're using the word, okay?
But that's the way the word is used. Definitionally.
No, that's the way you're wanting to use the word.
Why would it be the way I want it to use as opposed to the actual word?
Because everything is just in context.
Don't you want to use it that way then?
The actual word, I want to use the actual context, which is the actual definition. Because
do you want to use the context? So let's go to the Dresden Files, right? So do you want to talk about the Dresden Files?
I don't know anything about the Dresden Files. I have no idea.
Okay, so let's go Wheel of Time. Do you want to talk about Wheel of Time as Robert Jordan intended, or as you intend?
But I don't intend it at all.
Well, then why'd you bring it up?
Because there's a set canon. As opposed to his
we're not talking
interviews
about the canon,
outside.
we're talking about the discussion.
The discussion of what? Pick something specifically. Don't just broad paste it because I have no idea how to follow you if you just broad stroke it.
The Wheel of Time as Robert Jordan intended.
What particularly about what he intended?
Just in general, every topic from this point on, any Wheel of Time topic we're going to talk about is discussed under the context of as Robert Jordan intended. So that means when we're talking about canon, his statements count.
Not if they contradict with what his source material says. Like, example, if he says this scene in the actual books, this happens, and there's a mysteriousness about it. And then he goes out and says in an interview, it was this person. And then in another interview, well, actually, it was this person. Well, they're contradictory.
Within the context of the information there,
you can't
go in and say
his own statements.
Conflict.
His own statements cannot override his own writings. That's what I'm saying. That's how you tell.
He contradicts himself in the writing.
For purposes of the way you want to use your argument, your discussion.
It's not a purpose of which way or other. The point is that if he says this flower is white and then later on he says it's black, what's in the story is it's white. What he said is it's black.
Was
So
the
it doesn't
character in the
count.
story telling the truth?
What if the flower exists?
Well, the way he
and
described
says
it is what
outside
matters.
Of,
If it's described
outside of the
later on.
writing, he says it's black, and then later he says it's white. Then which one is correct?
Well, it's the thing. It's like if it's actually described in the books as white, whether it's a person's perspective
but
or otherwise.
in the book, it only says that the flower exists. It doesn't give a description.
Well, if later on he clarifies, because there's a difference between clarification and contradiction.
Yeah, but what if he has
Okay, let's
two
get very specific,
conflicting
guys. Let's get very specific.
clarifications?
Let's say Robert Jordan writes, Egwene sees a white flower.
Okay.
And Larry says the flower is black.
The context of him saying, are you saying that just like in a random interview he says the flower is black, or he later the book says it?
When talking about that scene, he says the flower is black.
Then he's overruled by his own writings because it's already established by
Well,
him.
I will ask you, how do you know Egwene is telling the truth?
He can forget. Well, that's the thing.
No.
The story
has to. Egwene is telling the truth.
It doesn't matter if Egwene is telling the truth. If there's no other, if in the entire of the book series, that flower is not described anywhere else as opposing to it, you have nothing else other than Egwene's
how do you
viewpoint.
know she was not mistaken?
That depends on the context of the surrounding nature of what was written. But what he just adds in afterwards, if you read the books without any extra information outside of from even whether it be the author or somebody commenting on it like myself or you or anybody else, if you read the books and you can come to no other conclusion than that they are white flowers that she's staring at, you cannot just say, well, they're actually gold or they're pink or they're purple, green,
the
goop.
person who actually wrote the book said, no, they're black.
Then why did he write them white? And not explain that it was her viewpoint.
Maybe
that's called poor writing.
Something.
That's not a clue. Like, that's what I'm saying, is that if in the story...
Well, it might have been a clue intent that you never picked up on.
If it's a story... Well, I mean, I'm pretty pedantic in that regard. If it's a story and Egwene says, oh, I saw this white flower. Now, if it's Egwene saying, I saw this white flower, or if it's the narrator saying that Egwene saw the white flower, there's a difference. Now, if Egwene sees a white flower and then Matt's like, that flower's actually brown, then that's something that tells you. I am aware of this, but I'm saying when you have, because the author is the one narrating when there is narration to be had. Like, Egwene went down the hallway and took a left and went to the kitchens.
Sometimes
that's the author
is writing in character.
That's not a character scene. When Egwene walks down a hallway, like it says, Egwene walked down the hallway and took a left and went to the kitchens. That's not Egwene telling you anything. That's the narrator telling you what Egwene did. From the book.
But who is conveying? See, okay.
That would be the
Lord
author.
Of the Rings, for example, right, or The Hobbit. Both books are unreliable narrators.
And which parts?
Because do you know the gimmick behind Lord of the Rings?
I may have heard it called the gimmick. I may or may not agree with it.
A pure-blooded descendant of Eärendil the Mariner, in the 9th century, named Iriel or Alfwine, that was the first human, the first man to find his way to the Tolorisa, the island of the Undying Lands. He was allowed to take the straight road and meet with the people. The first people met with the elves since the end of the Fourth Age, basically, right? And while on Tolorisa, the one place mortal men are allowed to go, he learned the old lore, wrote it all down, and brought it back. And then it got lost, and then a professor at Oxford found it and translated it and released it to the world. That's the gimmick of Lord of the Rings. Meaning, even though in the real world, Tolkien wrote stuff out of the world.
He's telling the story from the viewpoint as if he found a mythological history of the world. Yes,
correct.
Yes.
So
that's fine.
Narrative built into the fact that we have to assume that Alfwine wrote things down actually and truthfully.
Well, yes, the entirety of the Silmarillion is just the history of the world by the elves.
Yep.
So if it's the history of the world by the elves, but if there's something that example, if Egwene says, I went down to the kitchens by taking a left after I went down this hallway, that's her viewpoint telling me something, but then it could be from a Teller Unriod version. It could be actually she went backwards and took a right. because she's being deceived by either Lanfear, Moghedien, whoever it might be. Or maybe even the wise ones testing her. That could be very well the case, but the context will tell us this. Even if it's mysterious, even if it tells us later on, it will eventually tell us that, unless the author forgets, which does happen. Robert Jordan's not perfect. But that depends on the case-by-case basis on what it is. But if somebody's like, who killed Asmodean? Well, in the actual writing in the glossary, we get told who it is, and people still fight about it because it doesn't make logical sense. There's no reason for Grendel to go kill Asmodean. And Asmodean, if he was not shielded, which she would have no way of knowing if he was shielded, because the inverted weave would have been hidden from her anyway, so she wouldn't have been able to see Lanfear's shield. So she goes in, she could die if Asmodean was at full strength. Now, he is a notorious kind of a coward.
Well, let's also not forget that he was the weakest among them.
It doesn't matter if he's the weakest, he could still get a shot off. And Grendel's very, very much let other people do her dirty work for her. She doesn't go do it herself. She has her pets do things for her. She doesn't pick up her own cups. She has somebody bring it to her. So it doesn't make logical sense for Grendel to be the one to do it. But Jordan told us in the glossary, which is part of the books, so we take it as that's the one he says. None of it makes sense around it, but that's who he says, and we're like, okay, I guess. I consider it a pretty poor way to extrapolate, just saying this person did it and that's
I don't
that.
want to sound like I'm slamming Robert Jordan, but Robert Jordan is not J.R.R.Tolkien.
I admit he's not a perfect writer, and even J.R.R.Tolkien is not the perfect writer, although he's very close to it. And
Robert Jordan is not Ernest Hemingway. You know, I mean, he's a writer who produced a work above his level, so to speak, and you know like you know how like you could be a really good baseball player on a team, but you're not an all-star. You know what I mean? But the team wins the World Series type of thing.
yeah,
You know, so and it's not a knock on Robert Jordan. He had a bunch of great Conan novels, and then he had The Wheel of Time. And as individual novels, I would say at least 4 of his Conan novels are better than the Wheel of Time novels. At least 4 of them. You know, but that being said, like. And I wish he had lived to finish it because I think it would have been a far superior product had Sanderson not done the damage he did to it. You know.
Yeah, but I think he also didn't do the damage, I think, on purpose. It was more of what he could do within his means as an author, as opposed to Robert Jordan and his direction. There's limitations he had. I can't fault Sanderson for the way he went in a lot of areas. Could he have paid more attention to some details? Sure.
I don't know. Here's my biggest pet peeve with Sanderson. One of my big pet peeves with Sanderson. I don't think the biggest one. Right. The books were finished too fast. Now he may have been told you have to do this in 3 books.
He's also a prolific writer, so he puts out things for us.
Well, no. He finished in what 3 books? It's 3 books, right? He finished it in 3 books, and like what in Universal was it 2 years worth of time?
The whole book series was about 2.5 years, I think.
I thought it was like 4 or something like that. But
I think it's 2 or the first year, because basically I think by book 3 a year had passed, and then basically book 4 on was 1 year, because things happen faster because of traveling.
I'm not gonna. That's not a big point, but like I thought someone said there were 2 time skips in there that make the series seem shorter than it was. But it's not that important.
The gateways and traveling made everything move faster, which is why it can be a smaller time period and still things happen. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So like there were a lot more details. That's got to be me. I thought there was earthquake for a second. It's just me. I looked up at my lamp, and when I move my head, sometimes it can look as an optical illusion where a lamp hanging on the ceiling is moving when it's not, when you're moving in a certain way.
Sage looks up to the lamp. Is it moving? Is it just me?
Yeah. Anyway, so with the last 3 books, I felt he should have decompressed it more. Like there was some more like scenes that need to be written. You know, you all know what I feel about Katsuan.
Cat's
And I think, because remember, people who are listening to this, my two favorite characters in the Wheel of Time are Rand and Nynaeve, and I hated her.
Yeah, that's fair.
From the very second time her name showed up in book one, I hated her. Okay,
as
and
we're
by the
intended
time
to.
the fifth book came around, but not even sometime between the third and fifth book, I was like, I started to love the character. Okay, and Jordan took me on a journey on purpose with that character, right?
Well, yeah, it's called good character development.
Yeah, I think he would have done the same thing with Katsuane.
Katsuan Meladrin.
Yeah, I think he might have done the same thing with the Sean-Chan.
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot more, and I think if after he finished the Wheel of Time as like the whole last battle aspect, he might have done spin-offs with Perrin, he might have done spin-offs with Matt, he might have even done a spin-off with
we know
Rand.
we have the plans for the Sean-Chan and all. I'm not again. That's beyond.
But again, I don't think that I have issues with Sanderson's stuff, but I don't think it was out of malice by any means, and I don't think it was out of
I'm not saying it was
thing.
out of malice. I'm saying he wasn't the right guy to do it.
I don't know if there was a right guy to do it. That's the problem.
No, there was a right guy to do it. It's the same guy who should finish A Song of Ice and Fire if Martin doesn't die, but he's not going to do it. He refused back then, and it was Tad Williams.
I don't know who that is.
You need to read his stuff. He's one of those.
I need time to read stuff, dude.
I'm in the same boat, my friend.
Yeah.
But he is the most underrated modern author. Tad Williams.
Tad Williams. Chad or Tad?
Tad. T-A-D.
Tad.
T-A-D. Okay.
Tad Williams.
Yeah.
Sage, read for us, please.
His first trilogy was Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. The Dragonbone Chair. To the Angel Tower. What was the other book? I remember. Then he wrote. He just wrote biology, whatever you call it, duology. Sequel to it called The Last King, Lost in Art. He wrote a couple other stuff. He's not extremely prolific, which is good because when you got a great author, you don't want 700 books, But he's worth anyway. Back to our topic of canon and all that sort of stuff. My point is, canon is different. The term, what you would call canon, is got a different based on the set of discussion that you are occurring in. I mean, what you're debating, for example, even within the context of one author owning canon, there could be different versions of canon, like under Tolkien,
Well, there are different canons, but there are also not different canons. There are stories, and he had directions he wanted to go with them, but then he changed his mind and went a different direction, but we still have the writings of what he did before he changed his mind. They are their own thing, but they're also of an alternate possibility, and he decided he didn't want to go with them for whatever reason. That's his thing. I don't see that as competing canons. There is no competing canon. There is, I had an idea, but I decided to change it and to go this route instead. That's not, to me, a competing canon. Now, for Robert Jordan, he's a very detailed author, which is why when I find things that are details that are lacking, it's a bit strange and a bit odd, but I'm like, he's not perfect, so I'm not going to hold it against him. But it's when he has something that's detailed and he gives a simple answer that I question it. Things like, who killed Asmodean? Grendel. Not Grendel because X, Y, and Z, and giving you like a full breakdown of as to why it was Grendel. Just Grendel. Or, hey, who did this thing in this particular scene in this particular book? And then he's like, this person. And then another interview, it's this person. Two totally different people. I don't find those compelling as much as I find them, he just wants to answer the question and move on, rather than saying, I don't know in my own universe. That's the more logical, reasonable approach that I can tell.
Well, but I would say he is more detail. You are more detail-oriented than he is.
Well, yes, I'm pedantic on a whole nother level. But I enjoy his detail, where most people don't, because they're like, I don't want to read 3 pages of how the orchards look. I'm like, I do. But that's because I like more detail rather than less.
Are you aware of Game of Thrones? Isn't Sword of Ice Fire? Those are summer children. There are authors out there who go read anything by Stephen R. Donaldson.
Eh.
He's
I mean,
written some legends of the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. Basically, he's the author of that. And the level of like you need a like. I would advise people to have a dictionary sitting next to them and a thesaurus, and even an
I mean, that's what I
encyclopedia.
feel like for Tolkien's work half the time, because he uses Old English terms. I'm like, they don't use that no more. We're not going to understand this. But I still enjoy it, even if I have to hear a ye or something like that. But point being, when it comes to canon, I accept what is written in the material.
No. I'll give you an example. You guys have both seen Naruto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember
A
when the
long
Sage?
time ago.
Do you remember
it's
when
been
the
out now.
Sage of Six Paths first showed up?
No.
Okay, so Naruto
Is
and
that
Sasuke
when?
were
Well,
half dead.
spoilers.
Isn't that
No,
Jiraiya?
No. Naruto and Sasuke, the Fourth Shinobi War. Madara had just ripped the nine tails out of Naruto and stabbed Sasuke like a bajillion times. So they were both in a state of death and be held alive by their comrades, right? So they're in a metaphysical cross realm, and the ghost of the Sage of Six Paths shows up and starts talking to them, right? And when he first starts talking to them, he starts talking to them anachronistically, like how people talked 1,000 years ago, but in the same language.
How
Right.
doth doeth thou todayeth?
with big words and like big complex words and all that, right? That's how Stephen R. Donaldson writes and talks in real life.
Damn.
So basically, he's a relic from the past. What you're saying?
Yeah, it's just, like Tolkien wasn't like that. Tolkien was a laid down fellow. He was intellectual, but he was a laid down.
But he
fellow,
wrote in Old English as if it was an Old English document that was found from a mythological pathway. Like it's all part of the theme and the grand plan, which I appreciate.
He didn't sit around talking that formally, or whatever.
Yeah, unless he's reading the actual book. But yes, which I can appreciate, because it would make it very difficult to understand. And I can't imagine writing a book for like 5 people on the planet who actually understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to sell the book for one.
Well,
no one's going to read it.
He would.
So what's the point of writing?
He would do that. He wrote. I mean, he was not as prolific. He had a habit of loving the work more than loving producing the work. Like he's a philologist, so like I only very briefly looked over some of his academic work, but besides Beowulf, but he some people said they thought he would have been a more published author, but what happened is he would write lots and lots of notes and details and plans and vast piles of stuff that could be used as sources for work. He would just never go around and compile it, So.
Yeah, but to close out this whole part and move on to the last bit we got, when I see canon is of a particular. It's in the material that was produced by whoever created it. Like if this was music, it's the lyrics that they put in, it's the sound, how the instruments they use, etc. If it's a comic book, it's the art style and everything, like the design of an outfit and everything. That's the design of the outfit. Now, could they update it later on or whatever and say this is a homage from like the third or fourth Spider-Man after Peter Parker? Then sure, that's different. That's not Peter Parker. But if you're using Peter Parker, you're using Peter Parker's stuff. Peter Parker doesn't have a reason to update his stuff because it works. It's his style. It's what everyone knows him and spots him by. He doesn't need it to be chrome. It doesn't need it to be an Iron Man suit, yada, 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 yada. Even if it's helpful, I don't see him doing it really because it's just not him. He's plenty smart enough to do it. He's plenty smart enough to be able to use it. But if Tony Stark is dead and he made the suit, and yes, Peter Parker may be intelligent, but I don't know if he was necessarily as intelligent as Tony Stark in that regard, based off of the Marvel's cinematic universe. I think he's smart in a different area, and that
specific topic is what I kind of alluded to before with retcons to characters and things like that. They had to make Peter dumb again at one point for the DEI stuff to go to work to.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stupid stuff. They treat Peter like crap, but that's a different story entirely. But the point being is that canon is what was said officially in the actual released or published whatever it is. If the content creator, whether it be a singer, like a musician, a singer, or whatever the case, like if a singer is talking about the lyrics that they wrote, assuming they wrote them, and they're like, this is what I meant when I said this, they're clarifying, they're not altering. But if they say something like, tears like snow dripping down my face or something, I don't know, that's horrible lyricism because I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would fit that particular instance. But it's not like they mean literal snow coming out of your tear ducts. It's symbolic. It stands for something else. It's not the direct. I know Sage is really touched by this.
Yeah, you don't mean there's actually frozen water coming out?
I mean, it could be. It could be how cold your heart is. There's like a lot of things you could do lyricism wise, and as a lyricist, that's how I would understand people when they sing something or they say something in their song through the lyrics. They stand for something, but if it means like it's frozen, you mean like my frozen heart or something. But then they come out later on and they say, well, actually, it means I was eating macaroni and cheese and I just, it was a little hot and my eyes got a little teary. Like, no, that's them retconning their own music because that clearly doesn't fit the symbolicism of what the lyricism was saying. And that's the point, is that somebody else coming out and saying, well, I bought the rights so I could do whatever I want with it. It's like, maybe legally you can, but canonically you can't. Like, you can't change canon. You can add on the end of it and call it canon, but it doesn't make it canon. Now, typically, like in what I say for whether it be Tolkien's work and whatnot, they're going to make Tolkien movies or stuff afterwards, and they wanted to have like Aragorn and Éomer subjugating Rhûn and Harad and Far Harad and all that jazz and bringing peace to everything, but they still wanted big epic battles. They wanted to have, touching moments between characters. They could still do it, but they'd have to follow the pattern and the blueprint that Tolkien wrote. Even if he doesn't write beyond that, you still have to follow the pattern that honors that work. Like, you don't change Aragorn's persona, you don't change Éomer's persona, you don't change the styles and stuff that Tolkien put in a position in place. You don't change the locations on the map. You don't change all that kind of stuff. You don't change the tone and make it, Warhammer 40K all of a sudden. Like, you have to follow the same blueprint that was previously used, whether it be in the Lord of the Rings movies or, even better, from the books, if it's available. Now, obviously, like, details on like what the Rohirrim were like, you probably not going to be like crazy detail of the exact look of the houses and stuff. And I think they used what they could through John Howe and whatnot to bring that to life in the movies. So that would probably be the safest thing to stick to. But you're not going to change them. All of a sudden they become bloodthirsty. And then, like, even when the Haradrim, surrender, they just keep going through and butchering them because, that's not what they would do. They want to subjugate, not to obliterate. So you'd follow these particular aspects, and it wouldn't necessarily be canon, but it would be canon adjacent because it would follow and fulfill those types of things that did happen in canon, and it's trying to establish what happened through canon. So we know Éomer and Aragorn went through and subjugated Rhûn and Harad and Far Harad. So with that knowledge, you can work with that, but you have to keep temperaments, characteristics, yada, yada, yada. Like, there's things you have to adjust for in that to even hold to. So for that to fill out plain and simple, you can't just have somebody come out later on and say, well, actually this, and then it completely contradict everything that was previously before it. Much akin to like when Peter Jackson in the behind the scenes for the Lord of the Rings says, well, we didn't want to put our own views and ideology into this. We wanted to honor Tolkien. And then they released War of the Rohirrim, which is the complete opposite. That's where we go and say, no, that's not how it works. So that's how I view canon.
You let him get away with War of the Rings, and look what he did later.
Well, I know I didn't let them get away with it. I shouted them down pretty prolifically, I'd like to say. But as for the next topic, the Switch 2. So I don't know what you guys.
Is this like a fake one or?
No. This is real. This happened in somewhere in China, I believe. They got a demo version of it or whatever.
It was real. Then it landed in Los Angeles, and now it's dust.
They have to restart from over because they don't have the bloopers anymore. But this is it. I don't think there's any sound to it.
La Switch 2 va être annoncée dans.
Oh, okay, I guess there is. It's a language I don't understand. But it looks like they're using magnets.
That looks interesting. It has a little clippy thing.
So they attach in, and then there's like something that like wraps around them or whatever. So instead of sliding up and down, they clip inwards. Now,
Interesting.
I'm slightly concerned, just due to the fact. Oh, it's also much larger. So I think that's like
Well,
OLED. It's
much
OLED
larger.
size.
It's
Well,
slightly
it's larger than the OLED. It looks like, or equivalent to larger than the OLED. Now, those side pockets, it seems to be connecting through magnets, is I believe what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how I feel about it. More specifically, due to the nature, those flaps do not work with stuff. Like those flaps,
They look very fragile. Yeah.
they're gonna tear off.
I guarantee you.
It might be a case, and if it's a case, that's a totally different thing.
If those are being held on with magnets and flimsy plastic flaps.
Yeah, because here the example doesn't have the flap. Oh, but okay, it's
I don't think the actual thing is that.
Book checking.
Who what?
You all don't remember what a book check is?
No.
Book check.
When kids go around in high school and some dude's had his books, pile of books in his hand or whatever, and you run down, you slam on top of his books, and knock them all down the stairs. I guarantee
we
you.
don't do that over here.
I didn't. Do
I'm
that,
sure. I'm sure there's some version of it somewhere over there. Because my relative in Italy, it came from Italy. I'm sure it's somewhere.
Okay. That's Southern Europe.
I guarantee you, in parts of America, the kids will be walking around with these things in their hands, and there'll be videos be running around like slamming the machine out from the middle of them, like a Michael Jordan jam. So
yes, it is
I don't know
definitely looks
that
like a case.
Yeah, I think
this is such a great idea.
Because if you look at the video, right,
Yeah.
right
Like
now
right
it
here.
shows a switch, and it doesn't have the flap.
I don't know how a magnet's going to hold it locked in place. So there might be a magnet release button in the back. I can't
And then
tell.
it's like a super strong magnet.
I feel like that would.
raises all your safe
It's gonna
rounds.
turn
Yeah, it
your
also
switch
is-
to magnet on. It's gonna pull some dude's pacemaker out of his chest from 30 feet away.
Yeah. Collapse. Guy with a pacemaker buys one of these and just falls over dead as soon as he pulls it out of the box.
Yeah.
You have to have a pretty powerful like earth magnet for that kind of stuff. You're not going to get that probably from this. Now, I like the concept. I'm concerned with the performance because they've already announced and confirmed that the Switch 2 or whatever you want to call it is going to be compatible with the regular Nintendo Switch games. So you can play all your old games and everything, like you were showing off earlier, Sage. You can show all that stuff and play it and all that, and it'll work fine. My question is does it get a performance boost? Because it looks thicker than the Switch, which means they could put more power into it. If they put more power into it, that's what it needs. If it doesn't have the power boost, it's going to have a hard time selling. It's going to be like a PS5 to a PS5 Pro. There's not going to be that much of a difference.
My question would be, is this a replacement device? Meaning we're just making the old device with some improvements to keep it and maybe achieve some cost savings.
I mean, it's basically just the upgrades, and all the new games are going to happen on this, but you can also play the old games still.
See, it should be like a PS4 to PS5 is what it should be. But I don't know if that's what they're actually going to do. That's the problem. Because you can see the actual Switch versus whatever the Switch 2 is, Switch Pro. It shouldn't be a Switch Pro.
I'm stuck on this thing, that thing being swat out of my one of my nephew's hands or something and broken. They need to put up.
Well, that's what they have cases for it.
Like a rig for that, where you're holding something across the back of it, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking the same. If it's magnets, then
I guarantee you, if I were if I had my personality when I was 12, I'm chilling on a park bench and some dude runs by and slaps it out of my hand, and I see things explode in front of me, I'm gonna murder him.
That guy would get
That's
shot.
Button, right?
Like, I'm very particular about my electronics, so that if somebody does that, they're gonna be on the guillotine at that point.
Mm-hmm. But to be fair, let's wait a bit until it loops around again, because
You know what it kind of looks like? I guess they use the same casting for all this stuff now. I just bought a
Asus
solar
ROG.
battery for my cell phone.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's nice.
and it looked like a giant version of the solar battery.
So are you wanting to say, Sage?
Yeah, I'm still waiting.
You're still waiting for something to be said?
No, he's
No,
waiting
for
for something
the
in the
to
video.
loop around to the correct point.
Oh.
Right, so you see that little clip on the side?
Yeah, behind the
Yeah.
trigger, you mean?
Yeah, the black one that gets
Yep,
pushed.
that's
it
how
does look like there's
yeah,
a mechanical
'cause
lock.
I just saw that. So if we go back here, oh, I gotta go back a little bit further. See right here, it's clicked in right there. So
But if that's only
watch
at the top,
this
maybe?
this button clip. So I'm imagining you have to clip that to pull it out.
So it is actually locked in.
There's a magnet, I guess, to hold it in, but there's also a lock. But it's going to be top locked. It's not going to be both locked. It looks like if it's only from the top.
Well, we don't know. Maybe the
I don't want to be like
and
popping it out. Just be like and like snap it or something. So it is possible.
It is a double lock. Who knows?
Maybe there's a double lock and that trigger pops the locks open on bottom and top, which would be the smart way to do it. But also the smart way to do it would be, I don't know, maybe making a more powerful Switch that people can play higher graphic games, like play Witcher 3 on PS4 level graphics, or even at least PlayStation 3 graphics. Like, Nintendo is so far behind in the, like, oh my gosh, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet can be played on a PC with mods, or even a modded version of the Switch, at 1080p, instead of the 480p it actually is, with 60 frames per second, and let you see
480.
Oh, dude, it's atrocious. You need to watch some gameplay of that. It's bad.
Yeah, but Nintendo is like Apple. They don't care what about higher end or whatever. They're like what was the line?
Well, they believe because they're going to sell it anyway. Therefore, they don't have to worry about, like, Pokemon's
Basically,
always
yeah.
going to sell.
They establish their platform, and you either buy it or don't buy it.
But that's the thing, is that the reason the Wii did really good and the Wii U didn't was because they didn't try to put anything more into it, really. It was basically a copy-paste. And there's very little to improve it.
Had a Wii, right?
Well, there's that too. But I mean, I started with the Wii U because I got like a black customized
what
one.
games were released for the Wii U that weren't also on the Wii?
Well, the Wii U could play Wii U and Wii games. The Wii could only play Wii U, or only play Wii games.
Yeah, but didn't most things get a double release?
Depends on which they were, but they didn't sell as good, I don't think, for the Wii as they did for the Wii U. But the whole concept, like when they brought freaking Skyward Sword out and were like, we're gonna make you use a wand instead of using a regular controller, I was like, you guys literally played yourself. You are the reason your own thing failed. Every game should be both motion controlled and controller controlled by like definition, because if somebody is not comfortable,
is actually really good.
Well,
it's pretty good. Now, I did hear that these Joy-Cons are better and they have more actual motion based, like that right there. I think it's supposed to be like the steering wheel for like Mario Kart.
There's always that dude in the executive meeting, or that chick, whether it's because they're sleeping with the boss, or they have something on the boss, or they just complete a genius project that they thought was a work of genius but was a work of luck, and they come into the room just like when Hasbro said to Wizards of the Coast, we're going to get rid of the open gaming license for Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to charge all those other companies that are using D&D to make product, right? And what they didn't anticipate, that genius didn't anticipate, was everyone said, well, we're just going to switch to Pathfinder. Or
they didn't anticipate everyone to say, screw you, we're going to do this instead. So, now, that's the same thing, though, is that they're like, oh, well, everyone's going to just play Pokemon anyway. Then Pal World came out. And then all of a sudden there's lawsuits. Now, they are notorious for lawsuits, being Nintendo, because they're anti-capitalistic and they're anti-consumer. Instead of trying to make a better product, they're trying to shut somebody else down, which I greatly disagree with, because I believe if you have a product and you think it's superior and it doesn't prove to be superior, you don't have a superior product. It's literally that simple. So if you are making a game, but it's becoming worse and worse and worse, like it could be like one person with a mod made a like 480 turn into a 1080, made it super clear, where Pokemon spawn like 10 feet in front of you and it struggles with your Switch, made it so you could see them spawn all the way in the horizon. throughout the entire world at 60 frames per second. If not more, it might have been 120, but it's at least 60, which is all you need is at least 60. That one person did that, and you're telling me the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and Nintendo couldn't scrounge up that enough pay for that one person to work on that project to make it the definitive
Could you pause it
game.
in a bit?
Kind of what?
Could you pause it in a bit right now? So
No.
on the bottom, right? You see little the blue bit all the way on the bottom. There's a little extra.
It's all blue, so you have to be more specific.
Yeah, but like
Are you talking
so
about
you
this
see
spot
the
right
one
here?
from the inside, a bit further.
That?
Right, there's a little notch on the bottom. It
You mean like this one?
Sort of, yeah. Could
Okay.
that be maybe part of the lock? I don't know.
Ooh, does that pop out? It doesn't look like it's popped out though.
Yeah, I think that's what the mechanism moves, so you can actually move the thing out. Maybe if it has the same thing on the bottom.
Well, the blue piece is out.
Yeah,
and the trigger's pulled.
So you have the blue bit, and then on top of it is a different thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that top piece is.
But then it disappears on that image, so I'm not sure.
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, but in the next one.
Well, the next one's here.
No, you go back. You need to go forwards, not backwards.
This is backwards. This is forwards.
Yeah, but this is too far. It's immediately after.
You're talking about this one?
So here it has the notch, but on the next frame, it's gone.
Yeah, this is probably a 3D modeling of it, showing the actual like how it functions, and they probably did not
this
put.
one doesn't have that. So is that?
No, this I'm saying
they
this
just forgot it in this model?
This could be a 3D model. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe.
This is probably
anyway,
a 3D model.
When the guy takes out the Joy-Con, he does make one of those flip movements.
Well, let's see. Are you talking about the early spot?
Yeah, the way early, almost as if it's stuck on the bottom.
Let's see.
And he also puts it back in the same
pause.
manner.
So he does this. He pops this back piece. His finger does kind of go behind the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem like it's high enough where his finger is.
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, the trigger's right here, but his finger doesn't go higher than the white. See?
Oh yeah. But he does remove it like this.
He pulls it like this. It's just the angle he's at.
Yeah, but remember, guys, this is also an engineering sample. It's probably stiff in some parts, worn out in other parts from all the handling.
It's possible, but that's not a good product if it is that situation.
It's normal. Engineering.
Magnets could be good, could not be good. I guess. And we'll find out.
Well, because you still got the buttons here on the inside, because if you remember on the Switch, if you hold it sideways of the Joy-Con, you have those are your like R buttons or whatever.
Having it in a rail, it just seems
like that.
Way more secure.
Yeah, well, the rail, yes, but at the same time, how many times have people put the Joy-Cons on incorrectly and broken something?
Wait, seriously, they do that?
Yeah, because if you take the one and you put it on the other side and try to slide it in, it'll still slide in. It'll sit incorrectly.
You can see why it's upside down.
Sage, remember Sage, the law of Naruto we just established. We live in a world of fail.
That's true.
We're in a world where life has been too easy, and we're reenacting the fall of the Roman Empire.
You're supposed to fail to succeed. Anyway,
but yeah, like I think this could be pretty freaking cool. but I'm a little concerned that they're not going to do the performance upgrade that they need to have. It's been how many years since the Switch came out? Was it 2019 or something? 2018?
Like quite a while back.
Yeah, but Nintendo never. I mean, I agree with you that that's what they did, but Nintendo never goes like all out with the new product.
Oh, I mean, they did because they bet everything on the Switch, literally. Because from the Wii U, they
never like
big trouble.
the
March
maximum
2017.
possible technology.
2017, the year I got married, and this is like.
So this is what one of those things looks like. How can you put it upside down if it has this little bit here that you know is on the top?
Because people are looking at it from the other direction.
No, but this on top is only in one way possible.
Yes, but if you're holding it like this, you can tell. If you're holding it like this, you can't tell.
You hold
just
it.
Flit it.
You feel the...
Yeah, but you're holding it like a normal person. You have to remember that the average person who holds this stuff is stupid. Like,
Yeah,
I post.
I hold it like a failure. So you
Yes. Now, remember that in Discord, that cartoon I posted about the two moms?
When was this?
Literally go into Discord and it should be there. Unless I didn't.
Oh, you did that right now.
Oh yeah, these are clearly engineering samples. They would never have manhandled like you just did here with them like that. Would never have done it with actual sellable product.
Yeah. I think I posted it.
I don't see anything.
I'll post it.
Where would you post?
I posted a cartoon. Hold on.
Where?
I'm copying it and I'm putting it in now. Hold on.
So you didn't
There it is.
post.
I thought I did. My apologies.
So am I going to Discord or am I waiting
Discord. Just look at Discord. I posted this is what the average people are. So does it make sense?
Yes. Okay.
So when a mom goes into the store, I'm looking for the newest Nintendo, even though Nintendo hasn't released anything in like 6 years and they're not planning on doing it for another 5. They say ask for the newest Nintendo because all they know is that there's a game thingy and it's called Nintendo. That's all they know. The level of their intelligence is not, I should be intelligent and smart enough to actually do basic research to know what my kid wants. Or when my kid says, hey, I want the new Xbox 360. Well, if they're not going to do that basic level of information and research.
My aunt still calls all video game systems of the Nintendo.
Yeah, that's literally the comic. That's literally what it is. Yeah. They don't know because they don't participate in the culture. And when their kid says
she played video games all the time with her kids, she just never cared about like the terminologies.
I mean,
she would say like, I want to play the game. I want to play whatever game she's interested in on that Nintendo over there. They were all Nintendos are.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I know, but it's called Simple Brain. I think is what
it's how a lot of people old people call it the fridge, or they call it the
no, they still the old people still call it the refrigerator. They don't call it the fridge.
No, I mean that was the wrong one. I meant like the Xerox. A lot of old people.
They call a TV the tube or whatever.
No, I mean when they use a name brand of a product or the product, or if you're in the construction industry.
Like how you call
Sawzalls.
Every TTRPG that's fantasy related D&D.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I want your latest D&D. It's like, ma'am, that hasn't been updated in the last 25 years. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like
D&D is collapsing like a black hole. We should do a talk about that next week.
Oh god. Well, yeah, I mean
it's about to get the final blow.
I was talking to somebody about the D&D thing because they were saying the D&D is woke, and I was like, what was woke? Like, well, they wokeified the lore. I'm like, nobody cares about the lore. They care about the names and places of locations. They care about items, and that's it.
They wokeified the game, the game mechanics itself. That being said,
not from the old players handbook.
D&D, like literally this week is the final D&D Critical Role campaign, and that's what the reason 5e even sold any money. Let's go to all the Critical Role fans.
Well, yeah.
To be fair, 5e was relatively okay.
It was easy to play for newer people. But that obviously upset and angered a lot of the older people.
Balance doesn't really work, but nobody gets there anyway, right?
Well, it was like people wanted to play because they thought it would be cool because Critical Role or other things caused them to play it.
But then they didn't have like a professional actor DM, so
there's that too.
Yeah.
Well, it's more like the old players didn't want it simplified, and the new players wanted it simplified. So then you're clashing the two things. I don't mind it being simplified, but I think
to be fair, let's not go back to the THACO era.
The what?
Do you know? I would play THACO era.
To hit armor class 0 from way back.
I would play.
It's mathematically completely insane.
But that's the thing is like because I'm hoping to do one with some of my local friends here, and we're gonna do like a Lord of the Rings one based off of 5th edition books because I got some 5th edition books down here from the recent years. But in terms of how I would DM, I'm not going to force somebody who's like a level 10 lockpick. If 10's the highest you can go and they're a 10 lockpick and they go up to a basic standard wooden door with a standard lock, I'm not going to force them to roll for a lock. It's not enchanted, it's not special, it's not the door to Moria, it's freaking just a regular door. You don't have to roll because you obviously have the skill in which to do so. Now, if they're a rank 2 and they're being chased and they're trying to get into this door, I might have them roll to see how clumsily they do it or see if they can even pull it off because they're in a hurry. But I'm not going to force them at a high tier where they can literally just go pop and then just move in. Like, it'd take literally a second to do. I'm not going to force them to roll because there needs to be a balance between narration and stats. But apparently I'm the crazy one out for that because I think that makes the most logical sense because narration keeps the game moving, stats slows the game down. So if you balance them, you only use you base your narration off of the stats, you can come up with a better, more fluid game. But that's just me because I'm crazy. So, but yeah, I mean, if you find some stuff, Matt, that you want to talk about, that I'm more than happy to talk about it. There's not a whole lot going on in the world at this point, so.
I'll try to put together a couple articles so we can go over it. It was just, I mean, we just spent 10 minutes talking about it. It just as a side side.
Well, with 3 people, 10 minutes turns into 30 or 40 minutes really quickly.
But we know we got to stop because I got to go get ready for my other stream that I can't do from my bed, unfortunately. So that's good in a way. I do get out of bed and walk around at least twice a day. So
yeah, it helps. It helps to get some exercise. But that's all I had really planned for today, and it wasn't really much planned. It was kind of last minute plan because there wasn't a whole lot going on. So yes,
to be fair, everyone is still recovering.
Unless you're in California and then you're on fire.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think New Year's as much as Christmas, but holidays in general. It's mostly just everyone's trying to recover from family and get back to the normalcy of their life and the monotony. But there's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Belated Happy New Year to all our listeners.
Yeah, that too.
Sure.
Everything we do here is delayed by literally a couple days. So it is what it is. So we'll go ahead and probably. That's not what I wanted. The whole time, that was not what I wanted at all. Nuts. I had the wrong thing on the wrong window the whole time. My bad. I'm going to have to figure out how
the whole recording is useless?
Or? No. It's just I pulled something on my other display and yeah, I didn't think about that. My bad. I'll have to figure out how to black that out. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll go with this for a little bit. We'll have a technical error in the video, so I apologize. Still getting used to this whole method. I'm trying to make this a little simpler and easier for everybody to function with, and I think it's better in all intents and purposes. I just need I need a third screen for this to make it work perfectly. So, thanks everybody for hanging out. Sage, you got nothing, so nothing matters. Anyway, Matt, you got your stuff that's going to happen
Well,
before this even releases. So
when I'm jumping over to well, this is the first one of the year, so to speak. Uh, we're jumping over to now, which will be broadcasting the Thursday before this gets uploaded. So that means you have to go find it on Roman Empire's channel. We're talking about the movie Pitch Black.
Oh, that's a fun movie.
Pitch Black. Is that Riddick?
So from
Riddick.
Riddick.
The first,
Yeah.
Riddick,
Yeah,
the first
Riddick.
Riddick movie.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
I haven't seen or heard from that series in so freaking long, but it feels like it fits right into the Firefly world. I don't know why, but I know it
Yeah.
doesn't, but it just feels like it. But yeah, that actually, I think I did enjoy that series. The Chronicles of Riddick was the one I think was like a little less enthusiastic because the whole PG-13 rating, but yeah, it is what it is.
I didn't have that.
Yeah, Chronicles of Riddick was PG-13, Pitch Black was R, and I was like, I
All
wanted the
Chronicles is
violence.
where they have the whole
All the
necromancy
Riddick movies,
thing
including the
going on.
anime, were good, but like Chronicles of Riddick was okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was
Like,
meh.
the
It was
least
meh.
good of them.
It was meh. But yeah. So Matt's got his little live stream on Roman of the Empire, correct?
Yeah, Roman Empire's channel.
Roman of the
And
Empire
then,
channel.
every Wednesday night, I do the Wednesday Night is Overbooked, the wrestling show on Joker Boy's channel.
So you won't see it by the time this video's out, but you can go back and check it out and hear Matt's viewpoints and stuff on that channel as well.
So
I'm
I'm gonna drop out, guys, because I am very slow at this stage of my life, moving around. So
all right. Well, thanks for hanging out, dude.
We're
We're cutting it
Later.
at the end anyway. So have a good
Later.
one,
Bye.
Matt. All right. So, and there were two.
Yes.
So, yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll try to have something planned, maybe about D&D or something for next week. And maybe that'll be fun. Who knows?
Yeah. Why
So, but yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. Remember, my friends, walk in the light.
Farewell.